Y'all, this is Tamika, the face behind Hey HR, and I am just super excited about this lineup. But first, I have to thank you all for everyone who voted in the polls that I put on my YouTube community tab, because this really helped kind of solidify where my schedule was going to go for this month. So we're going to talk all about each HR position that there is. So if you didn't participate in a poll, you didn't get my email, then definitely look out for my polls, definitely join the email list, because every month I send out a calendar to let everyone know exactly what videos are coming up. And so this is the first of a series. We're going to start talking all about what it's like being an HR assistant. And so if you are so ready to hear about these HR positions and to be like, listen to me, I need to figure this thing out, see where my career is going, see where I should start, see where I should be ending, and what is the salary that goes with each? What are the demands of that position? How do I get started in that position? Then you're definitely in the right place. So if you're ready to hear all about what it's like being an HR assistant, then definitely keep watching. I have done a lot of research. I already know what each of these positions are like because all of these positions I've held, which is so weird. I guess I've held like every position there is in HR, I guess, as far as like the general common titles. And so this is going to be a lot of information for you guys because I didn't want to just give my experience alone. I wanted to kind of tell you guys exactly where it is now, because for the entry-level positions, I did those positions forever ago. So I wanted to see, is there a change in those positions? And I'm going to start each video off by making sure that you guys know the most important thing, in my opinion, which is the compensation. So when we're talking about being an HR assistant, typically the average salary for that is about $22 per hour, which makes that about $45,000, $46,000 per year. That's like a median salary. And the crazy thing about it is it totally depends on the industry. It totally depends on which city and state you're in. It totally depends on the budget of that organization. So these numbers that I'm giving you that are median numbers are numbers that are national numbers, so regardless of the city or state, for at least this position, because each position was different. As I did my research, I had to find some that were just in South Carolina. So I'll definitely let you guys know when that is the case. For this one, this is the average salary across the entire United States. I didn't do an international salary because that would be way too different. Now for an HR assistant, the overall duties for this position is to compile and maintain personnel records, to record data, to prepare reports for employment records, to file employment records, to search employee files, and to give information to authorized persons. And whenever I say personnel, you guys know that's an old term that folks used to use for either HR or employees. This position could be tossed into other things because you're assisting either the HR director, someone in the HR department, or the entire department. So this is kind of an overall of the duties, but your duties can definitely manipulate, particularly when you get to open enrollment at the end of the year, particularly when you get to after open enrollment and you're reconciling for verification to make sure that everyone's enrolled in the right things. Whenever you have particular events for that year, maybe you may do lunch and learns on a quarterly basis. Maybe you may have a health program or a wellness program. There are different things that people will kind of punch in the HR assistant to help with, because that person should be kind of an assistant for the entire HR department. So the similar job titles that you'll see, because the HR assistant is very, 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 very general, right? So I'm giving you guys general titles because if you remember last month, we just talked about the entire HR career ladder. And so this is in that entry level area. Just like any other position, all of them could have a unique title to them. As far as an HR assistant, similar job titles would be like an HR administrative assistant, an HR associate, or personnel clerk. Now, if y'all see somebody got the title personnel clerk, their compensation and their benefits are probably super ancient. Personnel is a very, very old term. So when you see personnel, be very, very cautious about going into that organization, unless that works for you, unless it's super duper convenient. But I would caution myself if I'm looking to grow in my career. So we already talked about the compensation being an average of $22 an hour, which makes it about $45,600 per year. And I should act like I'm not in the HR department and say $45,630 per year. You guys are going to abbreviate some numbers as you grow in your career. But roles that you can transfer to after you have completed or worked as an HR assistant is an HR coordinator or HR specialist. So it's always good to know, like, well, Tamika, I already started here. Where do I go next? So after an HR assistant, it's very easy to kind of glide into an HR coordinator or HR specialist position. Some technology skills that you'll need as an HR assistant is going to be word processing software. So some examples of that would be, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, electronic emails like Outlook. A lot of companies are now using Google. Some companies still use like their CRM email. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable with word processing. And that just means that you can get in there and you can manipulate some words. You can, write information to the organization in some type of system and be able to make that as an output and how to give that to the employees. So more technology skills would be database and user interface. And so that might be software like FileMaker or Microsoft Access. Traditionally, so many of your human resources information systems include those that's kind of ancient, is not really where it's being used anymore. But remember, I'm giving you guys national information, so that's going from companies that have existed for a long time that hasn't changed to companies that's moving aggressively. So it's a full view. If you're in a pretty swift company, then they probably have an HRS, a human resources information system, that houses that type of like database information. Talking about the HRS, some HR software is a part of the technology skills, and some examples of that are the ones that are used most common are ADP, Oracle, Taleo, and Workspace. So those are some of your like more common HR software, HRS systems that you use. Now, you guys always hear me talk about transferable skills, because if you haven't ever worked as an HR assistant, you're trying to figure out how to get in there, then you want to show your transferable skills on your resume so that you can get this position. So the transferable skills for this position, for the HR assistant position, would be organizing, planning, and prioritizing work. It would also be working with computers overall. If you guys have watched my resume reviews, then you know that I always say, don't just put that I'm savvy in a computer or that I'm comfortable in a computer. Like, list the software you've worked with. If you've worked with Zoom, if you've worked with any of the like organizing systems that folks use now, like Monday or Trello, anything that you've worked with. I mean, now you almost should put in that you've worked with different types of devices, like your mobile device, your computer, your tablet. So many of those apps are also software that you can use on a computer, because so many of the software that's always been used is becoming web-based. And so you want to put in as much as you can put in there. Google Docs is great, Microsoft Suite, and then explain which ones you're most proficient in. And then you also want to talk about whatever you've used during this whole COVID time. Now that we've been extended from places, you guys have had to meet your doctor's office, your psychologist, your children's doctors, all online. They all use a different software. So I would plug those in. You might not be an expert in it, but you've used it. And you're showing a tech acumen. So always like list those in your computer skills. Lord, I went so deep into that, and I forget where I've been at. We're talking about transferable skills. So the last transferable skill, or not the last, but the most common one, is processing information. And processing information doesn't mean, oh, well, I'm gonna put it into the computer and let it upload. It means that you can get it from the employee into wherever it needs to be. So if that employee is doing a qualifying event and they're now going to need some time off, we have to not only let payroll know, but we also have to let the benefit carrier know. So you're processing that information. So it's pretty much like following the process, but making sure that you're keeping that information accurate, that you know exactly who it goes to, that you know exactly where to store it, that you have enough knowledge of it, that you are comfortable speaking to that information. So processing information could be a bit overwhelming, or not overwhelming, but it's a lot. Like, people take it lightly, but that's still a lot. And it's a lot that we all do. So don't discredit yourself, because you're definitely good in processing information. Think about what you've done. If you worked in a doctor's office, then you've handled that patient's file. Whenever they call in with a question, you know how to get that information, give it to the actual patient. And then if there's a follow-up, you know how to get it to that other person. You want to show that. You don't want to call them patient, but you definitely want to talk about files and the software you've used and the people you've been in contact with. All of that will help you show your transferable skills to make you look like an HR employee or HR professional. I should have put this to the top. I don't know why I didn't. I was so busy just jotting down from the top of my head, like, what is it that they need to know? But something that you probably want to know is previous education. So every bullet point that I talked about here, I will continue to talk about throughout the series. And previous education is another bullet point. And for an HR assistant position, it really isn't a lot of education that's needed. You guys may see that these companies will list out all of this education that they need. They might say like associate's degree, bachelor's degree, or such and such. But they also have it listed with the minimum skills. And you'll see the last line says, or an equivalent of experience or education, which means this is everything that this person could possibly touch on. But that does not mean in order to be hired, you have to check every single box. it means you need a myriad of those. And good thing about an HR assistant position is a ton of education just isn't needed. So primarily, if you've had some vocational school or tech school experience, then that's good. On the job experience, if you've had an associate degree, then you already like blew it through the bucket. Like you should be absolutely fine for an HR assistant position because it really doesn't even require an associate's degree. You're primarily going to be led by someone. So I hope that this information was super helpful for you guys. If I didn't hit on something that y'all want, please comment it below so I can make sure to touch it on the next videos throughout the series. And y'all know I will definitely answer your questions. I'm super excited that we're finally in a place where you guys are communicating with me and letting me know exactly what we should cover. And so keep doing that. Keep answering those surveys. If I send it to you by email, if I put it on YouTube, if I put it on IG, if I put it on LinkedIn, wherever, answer those surveys so that I can give you what you want. I don't want to continue making videos and then you're like, oh, Tamika ain't hit on nothing. Tamika ain't hitting on nothing. I want to make sure that I'm constantly hitting on what it is that you want to know. And so I've went and used several different resources to gather this information for you guys. I will have that in the description box below. And y'all already know me. Like I am just, first of all, so happy for those of you who are returning to my channel because you guys are great supporters. And I can't tell you no lie, I truly appreciate it. I got folks I see every day and they don't watch a video. So for those of you who keep showing up and watching another video, I truly appreciate you. For those of you who are new, I welcome you to HR. And I hope that you subscribe because listen, if you don't, you're going to be missing out because old girl just going to be spitting them out from here on out. As usual, I cannot wait to see y'all on the next video.